All right, Mr. Tom.
Well,
we're out here and we're about to what? Plant tomatoes and
peppers. Yeah,
So
we're going to start off with tomatoes.
Okay.
Sure. Now, with tomatoes, I like to get my stakes in first,
Okay.
and then plant the tomatoes after I get the stakes. Okay, we're going to start off. All three tomato varieties are indeterminates, which means as long as weather conditions are right, they keep growing and growing and growing. Determinants, which we don't have today, are ones that will only get to about 4.5, 5 feet, and they stop growing. But they're also very good producers.
Okay.
First thing I like to do is add some soil amendment.
So we're going to incorporate that soil amendment into the soil.
And mix it in with the soil, approximately 50-50.
Okay.
You notice there's a little clay in this soil.
Yeah.
The amendment will help the water percolate through, and of course, like I said, the worms using it.
Okay.
Now, the type I'm using right here is a combination of compost and manure, and it's got a pretty good fertilizer level on it, so I don't have to add other fertilizers.
So you incorporated it in pretty good in the soil?
Yeah, I try to. Okay, this particular variety we're planting is Bitter Boy. Now, one of the things I like to do is remove the peat pot, because I find that sometimes this peat pot restricts root development or penetration, so I just get rid of it. You notice the roots are all gathered underneath the peat pot and have not actually gone through it. Taking rid of the peat pot will allow those roots to start spreading and developing. This particular variety is called Bitter Boy. Again, it's an indeterminate and produces good-sized tomatoes.
So you
excuse me?
So you have to tickle the roots before you put them in, or?
No, not really.
Okay, you just put them in like that?
Yeah, because you notice they kind of fell apart on their own.
Yeah, yeah.
And I like to make the hole at least twice the size as the root ball, but you want to plant it about the same depth that it was in the container. By loosening the soil around the plant, it has an easier opportunity to spread. The bigger the roots, the bigger the plant. Also, when you water always out to the drip line. Right now the drip line is at the outer edges. As the plant grows, the roots are going to get bigger, you water out further. And the reason for that is you want to encourage those roots to spread around, and water will be a good way of doing it. You notice I'm using a watering can because I have much better control than I would be using this, or a hose for that matter. Make sure you put the label back so you can remember what kind of plant it was. And the plant is planted. Now, I did put the stakes in before retaping, and I always put the plant on the opposite side of where these notches are, so when I tie it up, I can tie it up and that will hold it.
Okay.
It keeps it from sliding down.
I think that's pretty smart.
It works.
It works.
Yep.
Good deal.
Shall we move on to the next one?
All right, let's move on.
Okie dokie. Again, the same procedure that we're going to plant this tomato is pretty much the same way. But the unique thing about this and the next tomato, this one's a big beef, is that they are heat-tolerant tomatoes. What does that mean? Well, 95, if not more, % of the tomatoes grown, they don't like the heat. Matter of fact, all vegetables, that, to the best of my knowledge, is classified as either cool season or warm season. You don't find any vegetables listed as cold season or hot season. Tomatoes is a cool season, warm season vegetable, but what happens is it's producing when it's nice in springtime and early summer, that they produce a lot of tomatoes. But when the nighttime temperatures get above 74 degrees and they stay there, they stop setting tomatoes. Well, what happens? Well, no big deal at first, because the other tomatoes that got set will keep you in tomatoes. But then there's going to be that dry spell, and they won't start setting tomatoes again until the evening temperatures start dropping. By the time frost comes, you have a whole bunch of green tomatoes. Of course, we're in the South, so a lot of people like fried green
Yeah, they
tomatoes. Heat-tolerant tomatoes, on the other hand, continue to set tomatoes even through the heat of the summer. It doesn't like it, but it can tolerate it. For most part, most cherry tomatoes, grape tomatoes are heat tolerant. Some other varieties are also heat tolerant, and this particular one is Big Beef is a heat tolerant tomato. Now we're going to add my
Add your special mix, right?
again, about 50-50. I remove the peat pot, and by the way, a peat pot can go into your compost pile, or you can bury it or do whatever you like with it. It is organic. Again, bigger hole, plant it at the same depth it was in the pot.
All right.
Put the soil around it. I like to press it down a little bit, which has a tendency to push the roots out that way. And I think it says it's ready for a drink of water.
It's about ready to go. Now, is it okay to have those leaves right there touching the soil surface? Do we need to pinch those leaves off?
You know,
or
that's a
does it
good
make
point. That is a good point. I usually wait till they're a little bit bigger.
Okay.
Because one of the problems with tomatoes are susceptible to all kinds of problems.
Yeah.
Blights, early blight, late blight, red blight, blue blight, pink blight. If it's a blight, it's going to get it. And it comes from the soil. If the leaves are touching the ground, especially when they get a little bit bigger, when we really get hot, you get water splotch from watering it or from the rain splashing the soil onto the lower leaves. It's a good way of spreading the disease. So usually you want to put them off, but I usually wait till they're a little bit bigger. Any more questions about tomatoes?
You have this here. What is
Oh
this?
yeah, I'm sorry. I did meant to mention.
What do we use this for?
Well, this stake, this is a 6-foot stake. We got 12 inches of the ground. It's only 5 feet tall out of the ground.
All right.
With these, all these are indeterminates, which means as long as weather conditions are going, they're going to keep growing, growing, growing. Well, being in the South, by the time we get to 1st of June, the tomatoes are going to be up to here. What happens next? Where do they go?
Yeah, where are they going?
So what I did is I made this little device that slides right on top of the T-post, and they call these T-posts because you look from the top, it looks like the letter T. This slides in. I got a bolt in here to keep it from sliding down, and then I tie the plant up through these loops to keep going up.
All right, Mr. Tom, we appreciate that demonstration.
Thank
and
you,
we
man.
look forward to seeing how these grow throughout the season.
I sure hope they do.
All right.